So as I mentioned in my opening remarks, the world is changing and moving at lightning speed, adapting, evolving, devolving, and getting more complex by the day, to the point where it's becoming overwhelming for many. Coupled with this, we have an interesting international political scene and various country leaders offering a variety of leadership styles of varying effectiveness. Just when we need to be able to really think about and manage complexity, there is a flight to the simplistic to just cope with the day-to-day. As salespeople, we're often asked for simple solutions, easy fixes or silver bullets to address complex situations or problems, often at a heavily discounted price. However, simplistic answers to complex problems never work, and cheap is always a false economy. Just ask those businesses who went down the price discounting route and how it's worked out for them. But there's more. Then we get the other extreme, where clients are looking to de-risk every nook and cranny of their issues by involving 25 people in the decision-making process, or resorting to an overwhelming procurement process that is so risk-averse no one could ever realistically meet the criteria. This risk-averse approach causes unending delays and extensions to the sales cycle and affects pipeline management, forecasting and cash flow, which in turn affects business confidence. And even when the client says yes, they could turn around and say no. Here is the paradox that we're living in. Buyers have never been easier to identify, but are now harder to engage with and sell to. The average transaction is getting smaller, but it takes longer to sell in. As a result, the cost of sale keeps going up, and we keep dumping more information on people via social media, hoping they will pick me. Let's face it, no one is lonely or bored, no one is short on information, yet many of us are feeling overwhelmed by so much and yearning for something simpler. We crave genuine relationships built on value, trust and consistency that will show us a pathway forward, yet at the same time we're wary about engaging with others, wondering what lies beneath the surface on both the buyer and seller sides. What's going on here with all this angst and push me, pull me tactics? Where to start? What to focus on? How do we keep our heads together while everyone else is losing theirs? Well, we're at a tipping point where old world business models are clashing with the new disruptive business and digital models, and there's a new consumer-centred ethos that's calling us to account on everything. Metaphorically and actually, we're seeing a clash between the old fossil fuel mindset and the clean energy mindset of business, industry and politics. It's a clash of ideas, of ideologies, of cultures. We are at a major point of change in human society on almost every level. We are in a state of flux. And we're coming to realise that every choice, every decision we make has consequences in the future. And this can be both scary and exciting. The 2018 Sales Trends State of Flux presentation today first seeks to highlight the changes in sales, buyers and sellers, sales cultures, sales leadership, business and sales strategies we're dealing with on a daily basis, and then provide a realistic yet optimistic outlook of the variables that we need to factor in and consider in our complex systems if we want to continue to sell better in the 21st century. To assist me on my journey in this complex world and bring some sanity to this year's sales trends, I have been reading, amongst many other things, The Collapse of Chaos, Discovering Simplicity in a Complex World, which is a book about complexity theory and the nature of scientific explanation, written by biologist Jack Cohen and mathematician Ian Stewart. In this book, Cohen and Stewart give their ideas on chaos theory, particularly on how the simple leads to the complex and conversely how the complex leads to the simple, and argue for a need to have contextual explanations in science as a complement to the current state of reductionism. I know this sounds challenging, and that's because it is, but I need you to hang in there with me. You will be okay. Just know that the days of the silver bullets are well behind us, and we're going to have to ramp up our thinking and get used to working within systems. The good news is that if we embrace systems thinking and plan for the long term, we start to find that things do have their place and make more sense to us. We cannot take the complexity out of systems, but we can learn to think about and work with them in a more organised, prioritised manner. So let's take a look at a very big system that matters to us all: the environment, climate change, and specifically CO2 reduction. This is a very complex system indeed, but you would be forgiven for thinking that our only option to reduce CO2 was clean energy, solar, wind, and wave. Not so. Dealing with climate change and CO2 reduction is a huge system of many variables, and there are lots of things we can do on many levels if we only work within the system. In fact, there are over 100 options available to us right now that can and will yield huge reductions in CO2 if we turn them into business and community opportunities for us all to engage with now. Here is a photo of a slide from a lecture I attended 2 weeks ago, given by Paul Hawken, who is the lead on the Drawdown Project, which is the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming. If we just look at the top 7 areas with the biggest impact on CO2 reduction, we can see that working on better ways to deal with refrigeration and air conditioning, implementing onshore wind turbines, reducing food waste, eating a more plant-rich diet, preserving tropical rainforests, and interestingly, educating girls and bringing in family planning account for nearly half of the amount of CO2 we can draw down to reverse global warming. I see this as fantastic news, not only for us and the environment, but for business opportunities everywhere. When we look at the whole system, we can start to see the parts and how we can work with them to create better outcomes for ourselves, our clients, our businesses and communities. But we must never forget the system. Selling is one such complex variable system. This is what sales management used to look like in the 20th century. This is what it looks like today. But seriously, here is actually what a real selling system looks like. Anyone who's undertaken our sales strategy and operations audit and planning process knows what I am talking about. This slide also highlights the 2015 to 17 benchmark report for 25 medium to large organisations across industry. You can see there are several spinning plates to manage, and nothing really stands out as excellent in any area. I think I have all the little dots there as well. What we're seeing here is that businesses are not operating at their selling better best. What we've also found instead is that most sales teams across industries are still fixated on trying to address their sales issues by tinkering with incentive programs and sales force restructures. This will not address their sales issues in the 21st century. It's about planning for a medium and long-term future, not just reacting to each quarter or putting in silver bullet solutions, which is the key to the successful and profitable businesses outlined in Sales Trend 2. Sales Trend 2 reports that there are increasingly louder calls for business to be more long-term focused in their planning and strategies. The power of long-term planning can be found in books and articles from decades, if not centuries ago. Sun Tzu's Art of War is all about long-term planning and strategies. So it should come as no surprise to find the current regime in China has a 30-plus year global and economic strategy for its place in the world, while the current US administration has none. Interesting times indeed. What is becoming increasingly evident across businesses is that short-termism and maximising resources for short-term gain has harmful consequences for the future, for people who are burnt out, for the planet with scarcity of resources and climate change, and for profit with short-term gains usually involving a redistribution of wealth to a few rather than the creation of wealth for the many. While short-termism is still on the rise in many businesses, it actually damages corporate performance and costs millions of jobs. Short-termism is not a strategy, it's a reaction. The good news is that research is showing long-term focused companies deliver higher levels of economic profit than short-term ones, and that they deliver superior financial performance over time. And smart businesses are realising that profits alone are not the bar to be measured against, as they offer no indication of future performance in a 21st century world. You only have to watch the Four Corners program screened last Monday night to see how farmers, water boards and councils are taking into account long-term climate data and cleverly adapting to climate change to stay in business despite our governments. For instance, the Perth Water Board had to implement their 30-year water plan in 10 years to avert a water shortage disaster. It is increasingly expected that we factor in these big challenges and opportunities in our business strategies to work adaptively with these systems to play the long game if we want to remain in business. The challenges in the current state of flux are how to strategise, lead, manage and sell for the long term without missing the opportunities of the present. Maybe we can take a lead from procurement. Procurement will carry on automating where it can to best manage costs, but procurement of the future is not about purchasing. It will be about the three-pronged management areas of supply, risk and brand. We are living in an era of increased technology disruption added to the traditional disruptions of geopolitics, politics and natural events. As a result of this flux, the traditional approaches of procurement and sales are not sustainable. Procurement is shifting from negotiating annually with an established network of suppliers and instead focusing on supply management and the management of risk. Risk management now involves building multifaceted relationships between suppliers and procurement officers, not only based on past dealings but also on predictions about the future. Because organisations can no longer afford to take a short-term approach and react, they must proactively manage risk, and for that, a strong brand of sustainability is necessary. The focus must be on the triple bottom line and an understanding of the sustainability agenda. The triple bottom line now includes judging the impact of organisational actions on society and on the environment, in addition to the traditional financial considerations. While the concept is not new, there is increased focus on corporate responsibility. It is very likely that the job descriptions for chief procurement officers in the future will include sustainability strategies. The sustainability agenda isn't just about being green. Sustainability is about socially and ethically responsible purchasing, minimising environmental impact and waste, and eliminating slavery throughout the supply chain while delivering economically sound solutions. Corporate Australia is being put on notice it can no longer ignore these risks and place their businesses under undue financial peril. Sustainable procurement is about achieving a balance between the three triple bottom line pillars: people, planet and profit. So enter the domain experts, not your solo sales agents of the past. These salespeople are real team players, the orchestra conductors between clients and their organisation. They are the field salespeople of the 21st century. While there will be less salespeople in the field, those who remain in the field need to transform to domain experts who are also deep generalists. They become business people who sell, consult, advise, and help transform their clients and their own company situations for the better, taking into account the many variables already mentioned. These domain experts understand the world in which they live. They are small w worldly and understand the concept of pestel. They keep themselves informed and become extremely valuable to clients' buying processes and the forging of trust-based viable relationships. As procurement practices and the C-suite obligations are transforming for the better, these stakeholders realise they cannot do without the intelligence and experience of these domain experts and the collaborative suppliers they represent. So what about the rest of us? What do we do? Yes, we are seeing a reduction in the number of field salespeople. However, this does not equate to a reduction in people in sales altogether. In fact, we are seeing more and more people across the business value chain becoming involved in the sales and client buying process. They just weren't in sales before. The generalist transactional sales rep is dying out and being replaced by sophisticated internal salespeople with subject matter expertise, working alongside digital marketing specialists who are working in concert with the buyer's journey and the domain experts. The sales process must continually evolve to maintain buyer and value chain alignment. Technical and creative people with strong STEMmer backgrounds are now stepping into the client space at the start of the buying process, not at the end after the sale has been won. Clients are wanting to really get real insights from these technical and creative experts. By harnessing the selling capabilities of these people, we help businesses double, triple or quadruple their sales force numbers and sales capabilities overnight without putting on extra people, and this is leading to uplifts in sales and better employee and customer satisfaction over the long term. Sales is now a team sport that involves everybody across the value chain. So we all need to keep evolving to deal with the 21st century landscape. In sales, in business, in leadership and everywhere, we need to encourage more curiosity, empathy, kindness, cooperation and trust if we want to attract and retain the employees, clients and partners we want. Curiosity, or as now referred to, CQ, is the outstanding intelligence factor for the 21st century. The good news is that we have it all in us. It's just that some of us need to unlock our inner 6-year-old to access it. Smart companies are also building the empathy capabilities of their teams so they can better understand and engage in the humanity of their customers' experiences and help them solve their problems. For instance, AGL created a customer immersion experience for their staff, which included a silent disco that represented the voices of the customers as they shared their issues and concerns about how to pay their rising power bills. So powerful was this that many staff walked away in tears. Did this change their work practices? That was the intention, but anything like this needs to be implemented as part of a broader change process. If not, it just becomes voyeuristic and tokenistic. Peter Drucker, the father of business management, said, "Above all, do no harm," and that this should be the first responsibility of every professional. We have a duty of care to take care of the vulnerable consumers and do honourable business, if not for their sake, but for our own brand and reputation. Recently, KPMG and the Australian Institute of Company Directors published the 2018 Trust Survey, which was all about maintaining the social licence to operate. There is a worrying trend in the world with the crisis of trust in our institutions, including businesses, governments and media. This isn't just a sales issue anymore. Trust is an issue for boards, CEOs and shareholders. Boards are the custodians of brand, culture and values of their organisations, and in the increasingly transparent and ultra-competitive markets in which we all operate, customers have many choices and can abandon businesses overnight if unethical sales and business practices are not addressed. The unethical and illegal sales antics of once trusted organisations such as CBA, RBG and 7-Eleven have eroded trust on all levels due to poor governance, lax standards, poor leadership, questionable sales strategies and a lack of care for customers and staff, all driven by self-serving agendas. The profession of selling has been hijacked by the bad behaviour of a number of organisations. Boards and CEOs need to realise that they are the chief sales officers and need to better educate themselves on modern 21st century sales strategies, ethics and practices. And with the ever-growing transparency in business and supply chains, activists, consumers and investors are making their voices heard. They are calling out those organisations who mislead and breach trust on every level. Just think of all the businesses now banning the NRA in the USA. A social licence to operate must be earned every day. It is not a slogan. Which leads us to the thorny topic of the AI versus humans. If you've ever seen the movie I, Robot, you may recall this scene when the character played by Will Smith is in a car accident and the robot saves him instead of the little girl. Will Smith asks the robot, "Why did you save me?" And the robot says, "Because you had a better chance of survival," which was probably true. But who would have we saved first? I suspect the little girl, because we're human. People are worried about AI will be taking over their jobs, and in some cases it will. But when it becomes complicated or complex, we do need humans, especially when it comes to moral dilemmas. What we do need to do is learn how to work with AI and use it to help us further our work so we can achieve mutually beneficial outcomes for ourselves and others. But like everything that has gone before us, good governance is vitally important to monitor those who seek to do harm on any level. Jack Ma from Alibaba recently said that we really need to tap into and raise the levels of education around those essential human qualities that make us unique and bring those to the business world that will protect us from being overtaken by AI. He refers to these qualities as meta soft skills. The very skills and qualities he is referring to are as follows. When we speak to clients of all persuasions, they tell us they want their salespeople to have these qualities. These qualities are what Dr. Maria Montessori, a physician, anthropologist and pedagogue, identified as the essential qualities of human endeavour. The Montessori approach was developed early last century and evolved over 50 years through intense scientific observation in children from many ethnic, cultural and socio-economic backgrounds from birth to maturity. Maria Montessori identified that we are born intrinsically motivated, with the innate and insatiable desire to learn new ideas and grow, with no need for rewards to encourage us, and driven by the desire to become independent, capable people. She coined the term inquiring mind, which is about being curious, probing, inquisitive in seeking facts and finding meaning, while encouraging empathy, collaboration, respect and peace. Creating dynamic sales cultures that continue to learn, grow and perform is about cultivating our inquiring minds. All the sales trends point to the need to keep ourselves educated and up to date, to strengthen and feed our inquiring mind. Effective sales leadership and our dynamic coaching culture encourages the cultivation of these qualities in ourselves and in our people. One thing is for sure, we cannot stand still if we want to get ahead. This leads us to Sales Trend 7, which is about sales leadership, the power of preparedness, curiosity, courage in times of flux. The state of flux we are experiencing is bringing about a shift in the top key qualities required to be effective business executives and leaders. It is not necessarily a completely different set of qualities, but a change in their order of relevance for navigating a changing, fluxy kind of world. Douglas A. Reedy, a senior lecturer at MIT's Sloan School of Management, says we need to recognise embedded tensions and paradoxes because smart, capable, solid professionals most often perform well in their roles until they reach a level in their organisations at which they are confronted with a series of embedded tensions and paradoxes that may make leading effectively much more complicated. The most common paradoxes leaders are facing when driving transformation are as follows. Revitalisation versus normalisation, globalisation versus simplification, innovation versus regulation, optimisation versus rationalisation, and digitisation versus humanisation. Successful transformation leaders embrace these tensions even though they make the challenge more complex. The world of sales leadership is not for the faint-hearted, but with the background of a sales system, it can make it easier to manage and navigate. So as you can see, we need to learn how to adapt and live in a world that is constantly changing and complex if we want to flourish. We need to teach people how to think, not just what to think in the 21st century. We need to embrace our inner salesperson and seek out opportunities to add value and solve interesting and important problems. We need to lead with courage and purpose, especially in times of flux. Despite our anxiousness with the state of flux, the sales trends are pointing to an adaptation in how we do business, pointing to the many new opportunities of how we can work together, and it's a necessary evolution in how we transform to the next level. So the overall transition is clear. You can stay in the 20th century if you wish, but you better run a very low-cost, high-volume business that's automated and pretty much devoid of humans if you want to stay in business. Or you can harness and embrace the complexities of humans and systems, tapping into our integrity and optimism so we can transform together into a brighter world of amazing opportunities and better value. Which finally leads me to the Selling Better Manifesto. Why create a manifesto? Well, it's time to make a public stand. The conditions are right to present this to you now. I confess I have been waiting for this for 20 years, and so has my team. The Selling Better Manifesto is a compelling argument based on decades of specialised research in human and business experiences and a powerful case for changing the way we sell. The profession of selling, one of the oldest professions, has had a rough time in the last 50 or so years. Selling has been hijacked by the bad behaviour of a few, leaving a negative perception of selling and salespeople as a whole. Yet, selling is the vehicle that allows opportunity to flourish and people to prosper. We have created the Selling Better movement with the hope it will help people understand that there's a better way of doing business, a way in which we can all prosper. The Selling Better movement is an ethical and human-centred selling ethos underpinned by a practical selling philosophy. The modern business landscape offers a world of possibility. More and more people are stepping out to unearth new opportunities, bring ideas to the market, start organisations, and connect and engage in new and exciting ways. Everybody lives by selling something in the 21st century. Whether we think of ourselves as salespeople or not, if we have an idea, a product, a service, a skill, a talent or opportunity that can benefit someone else, we need to be able to sell. The Selling Better Manifesto represents a declaration of our intentions to consciously reclaim and practice the true essence of selling for a sustainable and prosperous world. We invite you to consider our proposition as a worthy alternative to the prevailing sales paradigm. The manifesto is underpinned by 3 core beliefs and 12 guiding principles. And you can see that these account for many of the variables we're now dealing with as we navigate our way in a 21st century world. I hope you've all found your copy of the Selling Better Manifesto at your table. We welcome your feedback and ideally your support on this endeavour moving forward. Thank you very much for your time and attention. We will have a short break before we meet with the next speakers, and I'll have a lie down. Thank you very much.